Hey guys, welcome to the She Knows Arsenal post-match show. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at @It'sJessino. Well, we're going to be talking all about the West Ham game, and honestly, what the hell did we just watch? I have no idea what kind of game that was. It was more exciting than I feel like I thought it was going to be originally. I kind of predicted 1-1. 3-3 was never in my mind, but I think there's a lot to talk about in terms of, what does this mean? I think that's what we're always looking for at the end of the game, to see, like, what does this mean for the future of Arsenal? What does this mean for the rest of the season? I think there's a lot of meat on that bone that we can get into, but, we're live and let's go ahead and get started. All right, you guys, I have the pleasure of having Super Kevin Campbell on the show with me today. He is so kind to be on the show, and this is a good game for him to talk about Arsenal with us. So, Kevin, thank you for being here.
My pleasure, and thank you, everyone, for coming into the chat.
Awesome. And I have my favorite Harry from London. That's what we're just going to call him. At some point, we'll get him his own channel or something, because this guy has really, really good takes, and I would personally subscribe to a channel that he made. But for now, he's on the show with me. Harry, thank you for being here.
Thank you for letting me on, and lovely to meet you, Kev, as well. Good to have you on board, buddy.
Nice one, Harry.
Awesome. So if you guys are in the chat, go ahead and say hello. Let us know you're here, where you're viewing from, and what you thought about the game. We're just going to go ahead and roll into it. So slow starts are kind of becoming a regular occurrence for this team. And yesterday we saw another slow start harshly punished with 3 goals scored against us in 30 minutes. The fan base seems kind of divided on the reasoning for the slow start. Some feel that the players are experiencing maybe some mental and physical hangover from Europe and just didn't show up, while others feel like it was the tactics deployed by Arteta. Aubameyang on the right, Saka on the left, confused the players so much that was the reason for the poor performance early on in the game. Kevin, from your experience as a player, what do you think the reason for the slow start against West Ham was?
The attitude of the players. Doesn't matter where they're playing. It's a London derby, and you've got to turn up. One thing you do know in any game, you've got to start fast, because if you start slow, the opposition could get you, because they're going to start fast. West Ham are at home, and they have got players who can hurt you. And if you're not on it, then you can get exposed, and that's what happened to us in the first 30 minutes. We were seeing things that you wouldn't see on a schoolboy pitch, and I don't even want to be disrespectful to schoolboys. Well, West Ham's first goal was a good goal, although there was nobody really closing Lingard down on the edge of the box. But the second goal, that sums Arsenal up. The free kick given on the edge of the box, whether you think it was a free kick or not, you still got to get yourself sorted out, and you still got to see who's around. Arsenal switch off, talking to the referee, turn their back on the ball. Lingard, clever player that he is, takes a quick ball into Bowen. I thought Leno should have done better, but the fact of the matter is, Bowen shouldn't even have had a chance to get a shot in. But yet, we fall asleep. We go 2-0 down. We start feeling sorry for ourselves. And before you know it, Cesc scores, 3-0 down. And we've been there before, haven't we? At 3-0, after half an hour, we've been there before as Gooners. But I've got to say, it was a welcome response. And I'm sure we'll cover all that a bit later.
Harry, what are your thoughts on the slow start and maybe the reasoning for it? I mean, for me, it's nothing more than the players just didn't have the right mentality from the beginning. And I think some of the players, maybe like Xhaka and Tierney, a little tired from Europe. They've been playing a lot of minutes. Is it something that, could it be anything else? Because the reasoning of the tactics just don't really add up for me. I agree with Kevin. Do you agree as well?
Yeah, I do. I think maybe we thought the game would be a little bit easier than it was. If you go back to the North London derby against Spurs, I believe we won that game in the first 5 to 10 minutes because we dominated possession and Spurs got deeper and deeper. And when they were on the ball, they were nervous. And it was almost roles reversed yesterday. West Ham started really, really well. moved the ball around well side to side. And when we did get on the ball, we just looked a little bit slow and the passes were misplaced. And I think for the first 10 minutes, West Ham totally dominated possession. We had a little spell for a few minutes. And then every time West Ham got forward, it would go back to Leno or a goal kick. We would go long. We wouldn't play out from the back. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe it's because we hadn't touched the ball. Maybe it was a tactical instruction. And then Leno would go long. The ball would come straight back and they'd have another chance. So it was just, the goals were always going to happen. And unfortunately, the first, second and third goal, it was just like blink, chance, blink, goal. And we just seemed sluggish in those key moments. And like Kev said, on the free kick, everyone turns their back. No one's looking at the ball. And before you know it, it's 2-0 and then blink and then it's 3-0. So we've done so well to come back considering we were comprehensively beaten in that first 30 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And we were kind of talking about this before we got on air, but the way I kind of envisioned the game going was that they would sit in a solid shape, really compact, and try to beat us on the counter, because that's how they've been playing this entire season. And we're mostly possession based. And I thought if Moyes is smart, he'll sit in and try to play us on the counter, because we'll try to pass intricately through the lines and lose it and then just go down on the other side. But I was actually shocked to see how aggressive they were from the get. And maybe it was because they thought, well, they're coming off of European football and we're more rested, so we'll go at them and kind of take them by surprise. And once they got up 3-0 and they sat off, I think that's when our game plan kind of clicked into motion. That's what we were supposed to be doing from the get. So for me, I can't really blame Arteta for maybe thinking that West Ham would play the way that they've always played, and Moyes just got him. Sometimes the battle between the managers is kind of like a chess game. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And the game is not just about, the first 30 minutes. It's a couple of 30 minutes. It's the first, the second, and the third. He got us in the first 30. It was, we kind of got them in the second 30. It got kind of even towards the end, so I can't really blame him for that. But for me, the tactics were spot on after that. And you could tell because we dominated in pretty much the last 40 minutes, 45 minutes or so, so I think Arteta got it spot on. And Lacazette also said that they didn't respect the manager's plans, which kind of lets you know that they know that they messed up. And Lacazette doesn't have to say that. He doesn't have to come out and back the manager, especially, I feel like they blew it and then they tried to come back and they did well doing that, so I can't really be upset about it.
Kev, what do you think he's referring to, Lacazette, when he says we didn't respect Arteta's plans? Is that playing out from the back? Is that playing long? Obviously, it can't be on the hunger and desire. Surely Lacazette knows that's what Arteta wants. But what do you reckon
no, the game plan. Just let me tell you a little bit about what the game plan could have been. The game plan could have been, it won't only be one game plan. Because if you're a manager and you've only got one game plan, you're in trouble if the opposition manager adjusts. So the game plan would have been, if they come at us, what we got to do, we got to move that ball quick. We've got to cut through the lines very quickly. And you could see in the first 30 minutes, we were just so slow. We had possession, we played sideways, we didn't play through them. Or if we tried to play through them, we'd give the ball away. And it was just wave after wave after wave coming back at us. Now, the energy and attitude is part of the game plan, because you have to have an energy and an attitude when you play this game if you're going to win. Obviously, they didn't do that. Got in at halftime, made some adjustments. But when you think about it, for all those people who are talking about it was the fact that this one didn't play, that one didn't play, this one was out of position. In the second half, it was the same players that played in the first half. And we overwhelmed them totally. Yeah, we didn't get 3 goals at the start, but we ended up pushing them back enough that we got total domination of the game. And those same players, some were performing, some weren't, but we still had total domination. I thought Odegaard was incredible. And got ourselves back into the game, 3-2, made a couple of substitutions, Pepe with a great cross, Lacazette scored, and probably we could have maybe won it in the end, which would have been incredible, but to come back from 3-0 down against a team who everyone's lauding as, look where West Ham are, they're better than us at the moment. No, this proved we're better than them. Our problem is we've not been as consistent.
I love that. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, we're definitely closer to a lot of these teams than we think. We just lack the consistency. And I'm glad that you brought up Odegaard, because that's the player I kind of want to talk about next. Kevin, is Odegaard a striker's dream? He just kind of seems like the type of player that any striker would want to play with. You know, he just has something really special about him. You know, what do you think about Odegaard?
Jessica, let me tell you something. When he plays, I'm getting my boots out. Let me tell you that. Because talk about being a striker's dream. The guy oozes class. And when he's on the ball, you just have to make your run. Because don't matter how difficult opportunities, he can find you. So you just got to keep making runs as a striker. You may not get it first time, second time, third time, but I guarantee you, the fourth and fifth time, you will get the ball. And I don't think Aubameyang's on his wavelength yet, because I think Odegaard was on the ball quite a bit yesterday, and we didn't see Aouar make enough moves for him, as far as I'm concerned, yesterday. But he seems to be getting on well with Smith Rowe, Saka, Lacazette. You know, he's an intelligent player, and he's a lone player. He's a lone player, and you could see we've missed somebody like him in the team.
How important is it for us to get this guy in permanently? You know, I'm getting to the point now where I'm feeling a little attached to him, and I'm getting worried that it may not happen. We talk about players like Aouar and Buendia, but seeing the way that he clicks with, like you said, Smith Rowe, Saka, how he seems to have really just kind of like found his home here with us. Is it really important for us to get him in permanently? Are there any other players that we could bring in that are similar? You know, are you worried that we may not be able to get him in? What do you think, Kev?
Well, look, this is the conundrum. The problem is he's a Real Madrid player. He's come away to get game time. They definitely made sure they didn't put with a view to a permanent loan on the loan. And he's just showing how good a player he is. And many people were watching and saying, Odegaard, we've heard he's all right, but let's see. Now you're seeing the kid. He's a kid. He's absolute mustard. And he looks baby-faced, and he looks like butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. But he's a killer once he gets on the pitch. He's a bit of a leader, because he's now captain of Norway. But you see, he takes responsibility by wanting the ball. And this is something we miss, you know, to link that midfield. Yeah, Aouar. We still could get Aouar. We still could get Buendia. I think we can never have enough quality players, because I still think our squad isn't good enough. Because when you look at the bench, who are the top midfielders that are really going to come on and change the game? And you need a lot. You know, I'm seeing Kevin De Bruyne coming off the bench for Man City. You know, you need that strength in depth. So, me personally, I think Odegaard is a striker's dream, and the quicker, if we can secure his services, I think we should.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of comparisons going around about who does Odegaard remind you of? And of course, the obvious answer is Ozil. But Harry, do you think he's closer to like a Cesc or closer to Ozil? Personally, watching him yesterday, I saw more Cesc than Ozil there.
Yeah, I think he's got a bit of everything. I think he plays a lot more centrally than Ozil did. Ozil would often drift out on the right to pick up the ball. Odegaard seems to, really get it centrally. He reminds me a bit more of a David Silva, to be honest. He's got that tenacity on the ball. He seems to have a bit more bite about him. I just think he's an awesome footballer, and to come into the Premier League and settle in so quickly and almost be the man that everything goes through when you've just arrived is just incredible. You know, that's when you know you've got a great player on your hands. He just comes in. There's a few weeks where he settles in, but then straight away everything goes through him. And that through ball to Pepe yesterday, I think I certainly thought it was going to go to Tierney on the left because it looked like the most obvious pass, and that's where my eyes were going to. And then he just switched it inside to Pepe, and I just thought that's Mesut Ozil there. Those disguised passes. So if we can get that kid, even for another year's loan, I don't mind, because he is absolutely class. I love him.
I agree. He had that little disguise pass that he did to Chambers when Chambers, crossed it, and then I think it was like Dawson kicked it in the back of their own net, and I just thought, wow, like I thought he was really good at Real Sociedad. I wanted him then, but seeing him in an Arsenal shirt has just made it even worse now. And I'm just hoping that, if this is who Arteta wants, which I think it is, that the board will make it happen, regardless of what happens in terms of Europe and things like that. If he wants to stay and Arteta wants him, I think Arteta has done enough to earn getting that type of player, in his squad.
Yeah, he's got quick feet as well, hasn't he? Something that Ozil wouldn't always do was beat a man. He would almost like do a little body shimmy and then step aside, whereas Odegaard's got more of a trick up his locker. There's a few step overs yesterday. There was a kind of a flip-flap on the bar line. So, I think he's got it all to his game, and fingers crossed we can secure the deal.
I love it. You guys in the chat box, let us know if you want to see Odegaard here permanently, or if there's somebody else in mind, let us know. And
how much would they pay?
And how much would they pay? Yeah.
Because every time he performs like he does, Real Madrid, they could be putting 5 million euros on his head. It's a crazy business.
If we've got nothing to play for towards the end of the season, it might be a case of just resting him and just not giving him any minutes. just leave him on the bench, make his value go down. I suppose a lot of it will depend on Zidane as well. I think we were linked to Coutinho in the summer, wasn't we? And then Koeman got drafted into Barcelona, and then suddenly that transfer was out of the window. So if Zidane's still at Madrid, and apparently Zidane's not a fan of him, then you could see him move on. But if Madrid make a big switch up, that new manager might think, this guy we can build a team around. It's crazy to think that, he can't get minutes at Madrid, but
I think they're like 3 points from the top now. Madrid is, or something from the top. Like they're pretty close to Atleti now.
Yeah, no, Madrid are probably 6 or 7 points off the top.
Oh, it's 6 points? Okay.
Because they won and then Atletico won.
Okay. So they're still a little far off.
So they're still a little way off. But, they've got to play Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico have to play Barcelona. So it's going to come down. I think it's going to come down to those games. It's very tight up there.
So annoying. But I mean, I'm glad we at least have him on loan. But let's talk about my personal favorite player. This is going to be my rant for the day, and I'm done after this. Let's talk about Thomas Partey just for a second. So he had more ball recoveries than any other player against West Ham. He had 14, and he also contested the joint most duels in 12 and made the most tackles, and he had 2 of those. Offensively, for me, I think he was key to our attacking play. He passed the ball 19 times to Odegaard. So if you thought Odegaard did well, it was probably because he received the ball from Thomas Partey between the lines. He was really vertical in his play. And to me, I can't really understand how fans don't see that the reason why we're able to get 10 yards up the pitch. Before we were playing on the edge of our box. Now we're playing 10 yards up the pitch. And, now we're not passing in that horseshoe of death that everybody was complaining about before Christmas. A lot of that has to do with Thomas Partey. Passing vertically is really high risk, high reward. I tweeted that yesterday, and sometimes the passes don't make it, but when they do, they're extremely dangerous, and they take a lot of players, opposition players out of the game completely. And I know he's had fitness issues, but for me, he's transformed the midfield. And when he plays in our midfield, it's like we have a big boy midfield. That's what I call it. I think with Ceballos and Xhaka, even though they're good technical players, it feels like we're playing at a disadvantage. With Thomas Partey, it feels like we're in the game, and a couple of poor shots, it doesn't really color my view on what kind of contribution he made yesterday. Kevin, you gave him an 8 on Highbury squad yesterday. I watched the show. So apparently you kind of think maybe in the same lines as me as how important he is. For you, how important is Thomas to the future of our midfield going forward? And how difficult is it to adapt to a new league and new team and things like that? Because I think that's not being taken into consideration. He's a regular player like everybody else. He may be world class, but he still needs to adapt.
Yeah, look, I think the pace of the Premier League, obviously, he's adapting to, but I still could see his quality, his class. People and fans often say, but he gives the ball away. Do you know Lionel Messi is the player who gives the ball away most of the time in La Liga? Because he's trying to hurt the opposition. And it won't always come off. But the key is you have to try to play between teams in order to get the team moving. And the fact of the matter is, Odegaard is nowhere near as much on the ball without Thomas Partey playing. That's for sure. So what I give him an 8 because I see most of our domination was because Thomas Partey runs that midfield and he gets the ball and he cuts out the West Ham midfield and was getting it into Odegaard so many times and so often. And the pass is always controllable and it's always in the right spot unless it gets cut out. But you got to remember, you're playing against other professional players. So they're going to try and stop what you're doing. And they know Xhaka can't do it. So they focus in on try and trap Thomas Partey all the time. But most of the time he beats the trap. Sometimes he gets trapped. That's just a part of football. What we do know is Thomas Partey needs a midfielder. He needs a partner. Because if he has a partner with him, when they try and trap Thomas Partey can move up the pitch and then his partner can then get on the ball and start doing that. That's the difference. When you're the only one who can do it, even I could mark you because I know I'll just sit on you. So it's difficult.
So when we talk about the partner for Thomas Partey, there's a lot of different ideas about what that could look like. And I just think the whole point of having Thomas Partey is for him to be more of the box-to-box player going, into the offense as well. He spoke about the type of player that he wants to be because he wasn't able to be more offensive in Simeone's system. And he wants to be defensive like Michael Essien, but offensive like Yaya Toure. Mm-hmm. So I think that trying to change from a really structured defensive system into a more free-flowing going forward system is difficult for him. But the whole reason why we have him is for him to be that kind of player for us. So when it comes to the partner, I think for me, it looks more like a Bissouma, but maybe for somebody else, it looks like an Aouar. Harry, what do you think? What would you think would the Thomas Partey partner would look like in your eyes?
Well, I was going to say Granit Xhaka, but I don't think I'll say that anymore. I think Bissouma would make sense in terms of his legs, his energy. He's quite tenacious. I think he likes to sit a bit deeper as well and get on the ball, and that might release Partey a little bit more. I think the most important part is just to have someone a bit more mobile next to him. I think that's what will put us in a better situation. Yesterday, when West Ham were playing the ball, it wasn't particularly, it wasn't amazing football. It was just incisive and quick passing. And if we just had a little bit more legs in there to get about them and hunt them down a little bit. And I'm not saying like a Firmino or like a Coquelin, but that's what they would give you sometimes. It's just a little bit more energy and bite in midfield. So I would like to see that because I think Partey has the quality on the ball to take us to the next level. I just don't think we're seeing the best of him yet, but I just put that down to a fitness thing. And the expectations are so high, right? We've signed a midfielder that we've been screaming out for since Patrick Vieira, so we expect him to come in and do what he did at Old Trafford every single game. And he's had a few injuries on the way, so it's now about managing his fitness. But him staying on for the full 90 minutes yesterday, showed how important he is to Arteta, because it's basically saying, right, you can sit there, get the ball and give it to Odegaard, give it to Emil Smith-Rowe, get it out wide. And it's solely your responsibility to protect that back four, but also influence the game. So I think given time, he'll rise to that next level. And also given a better partner, he'll also do that.
Also, Harry, Patrick Vieira, when he came in, he wasn't the level where he was. Well, we all call him, sing the song Vieira. Well, he wasn't at that level straight away. He had to build up. What we do know is Thomas Partey is a certain level, but look at the midfield Patrick Vieira came into. And before you know it, he was running things. He had a partner beside him, and then the team kicked on. I think that's the key now. Getting that partner right beside Thomas Partey is the key. So he can depend on the person beside him who can have the legs to get about, but he can then start fulfilling his massive talent in order to take the ball and having that quality further up the pitch. I've seen him do it at Atletico Madrid, further up the pitch. Great passes, but most of his work had to be defensively, unfortunately. But believe me, he can do it at both ends of the pitch.
Yeah,
it's a statement. It's a statement of intent as well, isn't it? Once you sign Partey and then you go and get a partner for him, Arteta is addressing those problems that we have. He knows we're weak at the back. He knows we're weak in the middle, and he's going out to address those problems. And whilst I'm a big fan of Granit Xhaka, he clearly divides the fan base, and it's about addressing those positions, whether it's right back, centre forward, and saying, right, if we want to get to the next level, we can't carry anyone. There can't be any players who are good sometimes or good with a player next to them. We need these players to go up to that next level, and sometimes that's about just being a little bit more ruthless, isn't it? So if El Neni can't cut it, if Xhaka can't cut it, if Ceballos can't cut it, then it's about going, right, let's go big on Bissouma or whoever it may be to make sure we see the best of Thomas Partey.
Harry, Jessica, I think Arteta likes Granit Xhaka. I think Granit Xhaka is a squad player because in order to get to the next level, yes, you do need more legs. You look at all the top teams. They're carrying nobody in midfield. Everybody's got legs. Everybody's got ability. But Granit Xhaka, we know, can play with a Thomas Partey against a maybe lesser team and do well. That we do know. So that's where you use your squad. If you need to rotate, or you got a Europa League game or Champions League game or whatever, that's how you rotate the squad. But the key is, Granit Xhaka has been at Arsenal, 4 or 5 years now, and we haven't qualified for the Champions League yet. That tells us something.
Yeah, see, I like Granit Xhaka. I don't like hearing that stat, but yeah, you can't argue with that stat. And when it comes to players perhaps not taking us to that level we need to be at, he's certainly part of that clique that didn't help us progress. I do wonder if you almost make every other position better. So you find your great right back, you find your great left midfielder, or you find your new number 10. I do wonder if you can carry a player like Xhaka, but we shouldn't be having those sort of conversations, really, should we, about carrying someone? We need everyone to be at that level, because that's why we are where we are ultimately. That's why we're sitting 9th and 10th.
I thought it was really interesting once they took Xhaka off that we played with Emile Smith-Rowe and Odegaard basically in the midfield with Thomas Partey. And I thought that was really interesting. It was scary, because obviously when you do that, there's a lot of risk involved when you don't have 2 CDMs. But I thought that maybe not with the same personnel, and obviously not at the moment, it was a nice glimpse into a potential midfield 3 type of combination that Arteta might be looking at for the future. I'm not saying that this is what he wants, or I'm in Arteta's head, or I know what Arteta wants, but that was really interesting to see. Like when we're playing against teams that want to sit in low blocks against us and aren't going to come out, it might be nice to be able to throw another more attacking minded midfielder in. And I personally liked the way it looked. Of course, I was nervous because I knew one pass and they were pretty much in on goal. But the type of pressure that we were putting on West Ham at the end of that game is something I haven't seen from this team like ever. So that may be an option as well. I do see Emile Smith-Rowe more as like an attacking 8. That's kind of how I see him. I know others see him as a 10 wide player, but I also think in Arteta's system, we're going to see a lot of players that can play in different positions. Mm-hmm. And that's probably a reason why Xhaka, I think at some point will be moved out, is because he can't play in multiple positions. Whereas like Emile Smith-Rowe, Saka, they can all play in pretty much every single position, but we'll kind of see where the midfield goes. In the future, we never really know, but somebody else that, can play midfield, but hasn't played there in a while, had a good game yesterday. And that's Chambers, who I actually really like. Chambers. Like I've always liked him. I've always thought he was better than what other people pretty much said, and Kevin, for you, how important is it to have players like Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Chambers in the squad, for homegrown numbers, but also players that can play in multiple positions, and are kind of squad players,
Yeah, utility players. Utility players are worth their weight in gold if they're up to the standard. Callum Chambers has been injured for a long time. He came back at Burnley and, it seems like the fan base, he's much maligned in a sense because he comes back to do a job at Burnley. He does okay. And because the team don't win, he gets picked out. Oh, you had a bad game. You didn't do this, didn't do that. I thought he'd done all right, considering it was his first game back. Now we get into this game, and at half time, I was party to quite a few people making making crazy delusional statements about Callum Chambers. He's not good enough. He's not this. He's not that. As soon as we pick up second half and you see Callum Chambers do what he's doing, obviously set the one up for Lacazette in the first half, and you see the way Callum Chambers was linking with Odegaard and putting that ball in where it was going to Aubameyang, but Dawson had to try and get there and put it away. I just think Callum Chambers is a good player. Is he a starter? No, I don't think he's a starter, but I think he could be that type of player like a Maitland-Niles, because I think Maitland-Niles doesn't want to be a utility player. He wants to play in the midfield. So it's going to be either or. If it's not him, then maybe Callum Chambers is the one who can play, obviously, centre-back. He can play midfield, if injuries, or he can play right-back. So he's a really good player to have as a utility.
Right. I kind of agree with that, but so we know we need to raise funds. Is he, if let's say Fulham or any other of the teams towards the bottom of the Premier League offered you 10 million for Callum Chambers, would you take it?
10 million. I think it all depends. I don't know what the pot is right now, and I don't know who they're looking at, who they can bring in. But we know we need a better right back. We know we need probably Saliba. I think Saliba's going to come in and get a chance. We probably need a second left back as cover for Tierney. We need another central midfielder or two. We probably need 6 players to start with, because we need another striker and we need another midfielder come attacker. So what is that? 6, and we need Odegaard. So that's probably 6. So we need 6 or 7 players to beef up that squad to make it really strong. And I'm not so sure if Callum Chambers is going to survive it. To be honest, I'm not sure because there has to be a ruthlessness in this football club now, and having a utility player who can play there okay maybe isn't good enough. You've got to be really good, and I think Callum Chambers is a decent player, but I don't think he's a really good player in multiple positions. So he might not survive the cull what's coming.
Harry, keep or sell for Callum Chambers?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because sometimes you get emotionally attached to these players that have been there a little bit longer, and he's had a few injuries, and now it feels like he's on a mini revival. But ultimately, if a good offer comes in, like Kev says, we need a few players, to say the least. So if you can raise good funds, anything upwards of 15 million, I'd say it's worth selling. But in the same respect, we don't know what's going to happen with Bellerin. We don't know what's going to happen with Rob Holding. I know he signed a new contract, but it might be a case of Arteta just protecting an investment and seeing if he can drive up some value and maybe some bids in the summer. So I'd be inclined to sell, but I've got a little bit of a soft spot for Callum Chambers. I think he's quite underrated on the ball. I think he showed that on the weekend. I think even though he had a couple of tough loan spells with Middlesbrough and Fulham, I think at Fulham playing CDM, he performed quite well. But ultimately, like Kev said, we've got to be cutthroat. So if we get a good offer, you have to say goodbye to these players.
You guys, let us know in the chat if you'd keep or sell Callum Chambers. For me, I just think that, if we were in a better position, we were closer to where we want to be, Callum Chambers is somebody that I'd keep around for squad depth, rotation, whatever. But because we really desperately need to raise funds, I think he needs to be sold, and I was saying this before, when he was playing against Burnley, I know a lot of people didn't like that, because it was well, why are we giving playing time to Callum Chambers? I'm like, you guys, he has to be seen to be sold. If we want these players to go for a decent amount of money, other teams need to see that they can actually play. And he's been injured for so long. Nobody's going to buy him off of just blind faith, that he can do something just because we're yeah, he can do a job. They need to see it. So I think regardless to if he stays or goes, it's good for him getting playing time. I think in the position that we're in right now, he needs to go. But I love Callum Chambers, and I wish we were in a better spot so we could have somebody like him in the squad, because I think having players that can play multiple positions but are not going to be constantly running into the manager's office asking about, I need playing time or I'm going to go, is important. I think that's kind of how Holding is. He's obviously, to me, not going to be the starting right center back, but I don't think he's going to be running into Arteta's office every 5 minutes asking, am I going to get playing time? If not, I'm going to go. And that's important to me. I think when you're Man City and you're fighting for top honors, of course, world-class players will sit on your bench, but we're not there yet. So squad players need to be okay with, rotating. And I think Callum Chambers and Holding gives you that. But I mean, if you offered me money for either of them, I'd probably take it, because that's where
I suppose it depends on the order of priority for Arteta, doesn't it, as well? Maybe he thinks Cedric is going to be okay next season as a first choice right back, and maybe Callum Chambers can be backup, based on the fact that we're going to get a decent fee for Bellerin. Maybe he thinks we can get a 30 million fee from PSG or Barcelona for Bellerin.
The fan base would fall apart, Harry. The fan base would fall apart if that was the reality. I mean, I wouldn't be upset about it, but Cedric starting and Chambers his backup, and we sell Bellerin.
But everyone's calling for Chambers to start over Bellerin at the moment.
but that's just because
of course they don't like Bellerin.
It's just because of Hector Bellerin. Look, we need a top right back. That's what we need. We need someone who can defend. Is fit, strong. He's good going for. We need the full package, because we got one on the left-hand side, and you see what difference that makes on the left-hand side with Kieran Tierney. We need a right back like that. And
do you think Cedric can do the job? I know he's certainly not Kieran Tierney, but do you think he could do the job at right back for a season?
Well, listen, we're talking about a Portuguese international player. Cedric is an excellent player, but our team is not there yet, and Cedric, he has certain qualities that Hector Bellerin has. And if you watch when he plays with Pepe plays well with Hector Bellerin. Sorry, with Cedric. He doesn't play that well with Hector Bellerin for whatever reason. I don't know why. But at the end of the day, I think we need somebody at right back who is top level. And we've got to get them. We need them, because we've got one on. It always shows up when you have one on one side and you don't have one on the other. Because if Cedric was that world-class player, you would see he would start most of the games, just like Tierney starts most of the games. But the problem is he doesn't start most of the games. So, we need someone who's going to say, right, this right back spot's mine. And whenever the manager wants to rotate, then you come in for a Europa League game or a lesser game. But the right back spot's mine. But we ain't got it yet.
Lone Star Londoner pretty much agrees with you. We need a Kieran Tierney right back. We've been linked with Lamptey. I'm not quite sold on that one. I don't think he's big enough or strong enough. And the injuries are an issue as well. But we'll see what the club is thinking. But let's get into some of your comments. Lone Star says Odegaard was excellent yesterday. Let's see. Io says, what is this, 2011? I guess that's in regards to Callum Chambers. Lone Star also says Chambers, Luiz, Xhaka, El Neni, Bellerin dragged us backwards. They got to go. I agree with that to a certain extent. DC says sell only if it's 20 million or above. You're not getting that, I don't think.
No way.
Io says sell.
Yeah, I think now
Jason
with
says
COVID as well,
so.
getting those big transfer fees were even going to be harder, right? I mean, maybe 3, 4 years ago, you might have got that sort of money for a young English player, but it seems that those players are even harder to sell in this
10
market.
million, you get 10 million, you sell him.
That's what I
Telling
was
you.
10 million. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
10
you
million,
said
you
that.
take it,
Yeah.
you run away, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
this is not pre-COVID. Yeah, maybe you're asking for 15 million because of English tax or whatever, you know, you want to call it. But now 10 million and you got a deal. Io says we need to raise P.
True. It's true. We need to raise the P. True.
Salag says keep Callum. Aslan says, Jess, your right back option. You suggested Denzel Dumfries. I've suggested him before. I know a lot of people don't think that he would be able to, his quality would not transfer from the Eredivisie to the Premier League, but I think he's the right physical stature that we're looking for. Gunnar since 96 says keep. I don't think the board are going to fork out enough to make all purchases we all want, but he could be useful backup. Lone Star sell. Sean, the real problem is Bellerin. I mean, it's a mixed bag. Some people say keep, some people say sell. You know, he's a keep Chambers, good squad player, homegrown player quota. That's important too. But I think that might be a reason why we're looking at Lamptey. You know, it might be a matter of keeping the homegrown quotas up. You know, you never really know, but we'll see. I think he did have a really good game yesterday, though. And yeah, I don't think you could take that away from him.
Yeah, totally agree.
Let's talk a little bit about the main man. He was the main man to me yesterday. Of course, I love Thomas. I thought Odegaard was great, but I think Lacazette was really, really good yesterday, obviously. Man of the match, yeah. So, obviously, he should have had 2 goals. I'm not really sure how they looked at that first one and deemed that an own goal. To me, I didn't get it. Like, it didn't make sense, you know, but he should have had 2. But he was a leader and he led us back into the game. And his build-up play was spectacular. And this is the best I've seen him play this season. We have really important games coming up and, you know, we'll get to Aubameyang, but I think he's going to be integral to our success at the end of the season in Lacazette. So, Kevin, for you, is he making a case for more minutes, you know, towards the end of the season? You know, Aubameyang is usually the first choice, you know, because of big contract. He's the guy, he's the clinical finisher, but Lacazette's been good as of late. You know, could he maybe start some of these games?
I think we play better. We play better as a team with Lacazette at the number 9. Whether Aubameyang's on the pitch or not, I think when Lacazette plays number 9, we function as a team. We saw it against Chelsea, where, you know, Mikel Arteta put the kids in and we blitzed Chelsea. And Lacazette was key. We then went to West Bromwich Albion and we blitzed them. And the combination play was spectacular because I think Lacazette is a lot better with his back to goal than Aubameyang is. He's happy at receiving the ball under pressure. He's happy at dealing with the ball against a big centre half. And he's a very good technician, and I think him and Odegaard are starting to understand each other's game a little bit better now. And if it weren't for Lacazette yesterday, we lose that game. If I'm honest with you, I thought he was excellent. I'm giving him 2 goals. I don't care what anyone says. I thought his touch and shot, the swivel was brilliant, and yeah, it took a deflection, but if you don't shoot, you don't score. And he took the opportunity and scored. I thought he was brilliant. Everything about him yesterday was brilliant.
What do you think his mindset is like? You know, you've been a striker before, and he came in, and 6 months later they brought in a world-class striker in Aubameyang, and he's always worked hard, but it never seemed like he hit the heights that we expected. But how could you expect somebody to play well when we didn't even build the team around him? You know, I think it's almost like we've revised the story to be like Aubameyang has been the best and Lacazette's been so bad, but I just think it's because the team wasn't ever built for him. They bought Aubameyang in 6 months later.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. What we have to understand is the key is you need more than one player who can score goals. Lacazette is a goal scorer. Aubameyang is a killer. That's why you brought Aubameyang in. we were thinking, especially me, I was thinking of now we've got a partnership up there. You know, they get along. They love to score goals. And in a partnership, there's always one of the players who scores more than the other. But Lacazette is the key to Aubameyang's success. Again, because of the way he plays, the way he retrieves the ball, the way he holds the ball up, brings other players into play, and it allows Aubameyang then to get on the move while Lacazette holds it to play it back or to link with him, and then he could get his opportunity. So I think you see that when Lacazette doesn't play, and then you see Aubameyang play kind of on his own. He's not the same player. And, you know, we've seen Aubameyang not be the same player a lot of the time this season, and a lot of it probably is because of Lacazette. Yeah, we haven't played well at times, but if Lacazette isn't there, I think Aubameyang doesn't tend to play really well.
On current form, do you sell Lacazette? You know, make some raise some P, as you guys would say,
Yeah,
or let him run his deal down, renew. Like,
look, for me, I'd keep him. For me, I'd keep him because of what I'm seeing now. I don't know what's in Mikel Arteta and Edu's head. Now, do we need a change? Do we need more legs up there? Yes, probably we do. And Lacazette is a good player, but he's not the quickest player who can hurt teams. So maybe we might need somebody else who can do it all. I don't know who they're looking at. I've no idea if they are looking at anyone. There's Odegaard at Celtic, who's a very good player, good with his back to goal as well. And I just think nobody's safe if it was up to me. Not even Aubameyang. Nobody's safe, because to get the team right, if you needed to do the business, if somebody made you an offer you couldn't refuse for Aubameyang, would you sell him? You know, would you sell him? This is a big question. So I just think Mikel Arteta and Edu have a lot of jiggery-pokery and thinking to do before the end of the season. And they know who they want. I know they know who they want. I just don't know whether Lacazette's going to survive.
Harry, you tweeted earlier, like probably yesterday, that, you know, basically the conversation about selling Aubameyang and keeping Lacazette shows how fickle the fan base is. So I'm assuming that you wouldn't, you know, change your mind and you would keep Aubameyang and maybe get rid of Lacazette. How do you feel about, you know, this whole conundrum that we're kind of in now?
I mean, my tweet was more pointing towards the fact that we've almost just disregarded Aubameyang completely and almost forgot about, you know, how many goals he can score for us. But you can't ignore Lacazette's good form recently, and going into the Liverpool game when we return from international break, you'd have to say Lacazette has to start. And then whether you play Aubameyang on the left wing or not, that's another question for Arteta. But I've always liked Lacazette, but ultimately the reason why we signed Aubameyang was because, like Kev said, we needed two options. But there's always been this thing with Lacazette: is he a 20-goal-a-year man? No, he's more a 10 to 15. And, you know, for us to compete at the very top, we need our striker scoring 25, and we need our two wingers contributing massively. Because ultimately, our central midfielders don't score, and up until Odegaard, our number 10s aren't incredibly prolific. So the reason why it's a question over Aubameyang and Lacazette at the moment is because ultimately Aubameyang's level has dropped off. You know, that's it. Where his goals have come from has varied. Left wing, centre forward, he's always scored goals. But this year, he's been incredibly inconsistent. And Lacazette has been better, but he's also been quite inconsistent. There was that stage when he missed those chances against Liverpool away. Then he was dropped for Nketiah a few games. And then he's been in and out. And Aubameyang hasn't really found form apart from the hat-trick against Leeds. You know, he's been hot and cold. So ultimately, if I could keep both, I would. But like Kev said, that's based on now. I'm sure we'd all say last year we should definitely sign a contract extension. Sorry, definitely offer Aubameyang a contract extension. And 9 months later, we're all going, this hasn't worked out too well. So who knows if that's in Lacazette's mind. I don't want to sound vindictive, but is he playing for a contract? Is he, you know, trying to get that one big paycheck at Arsenal? And then when he gets it, is it going to be, okay, relax a little bit now? So I think it's hard to read too much into it. But I would say let's not write Aubameyang off just yet. There's still plenty of goals in him, and I do believe he can score goals playing left wing with Lacazette up front. I just think we need to get him used to the system, used to Odegaard, and if we're at maximum creativity, I think there is enough there for him to score. But ultimately, if he does play left wing, then you lose creativity because you're taking Emil Smith-Rowe out, or you're taking Willian out, you're taking a possession-based footballer out. So it's a tough one, but I like them both, and we'll just have to wait and see, like Kev says, what Arteta and Edu do. Who knows? Next year we could have neither of them.
True.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think we really know what the plan is, because I think it's touch and go. It's really based on what happens with European competition, where we end up in the season,
The
you know,
Euros.
what kind of, the Euros, everything. So right now we have a couple of pretty decent strikers, but none of them really fit us perfectly. You know, we may not be able to get that striker right now, but we have to do with what we kind of have. And I think that because we gave Aubameyang the big contract, we have to try to make that work. As much as I love Lacazette, I just think I can't not. He's went through goal droughts with us before, so if we try to renew him, or I think renewing is out of the question. It's either sell or let him run his deal down. You know, and I think if you get the right offer,
You got to sell him then.
Yeah. And that's it naturally kind of fixes itself in my mind. You know, you get a good offer, you take it, you know, and then you just move on from it. Or if you don't get it, you let him run his deal down, but you don't renew, because the type of wages that he's on, I don't think we should renew him for that or anything even close to that. And I don't think he'd accept anything like that. You know, if they offer him half the wages or 100 million less a week, he's, you know, 100,000 less a week, he's not going to take that, you know? So I think it almost solves itself, but I do think that we have to be careful about looking at, it's like Aubameyang starts not scoring, then he's the worst thing in the world. Then Lacazette starts not scoring, then he's the devil. You know, we just have to be more careful and think it's more about where we are right now, and that there's outside forces besides just who's scoring goals right now that will decide whether or not we keep who we keep and we get rid of
Jessica, Harry, our problem all season has been our consistency taking chances. That's been our problem all season. Now, we relied on Aubameyang for 2 seasons. He carried the club for 2 seasons, Aubameyang. And the one point where he goes off the boil, we've got no one else to really carry the can. You know, Lacazette's turned up in the last few weeks and he's been good. But there has been times where Lacazette's been out of the team and people have been saying, you know, get rid of him. So we haven't got. We need Aubameyang to find his consistency, and we probably I'm going to say probably Lacazette will be sold for somebody younger, and they're grooming. I believe they're working hard with Martinelli for him to be a number 9. Whether he's going to be that guy next season, I don't know. But I think if that was the case, it solves a lot of the problems.
I think so too, for sure. So let's talk a little bit more about Aubameyang, because, I mean, this is somebody that obviously we gave him the contract. We have to make it work. He basically got us the FA Cup, like if that's how you want to phrase it. Like he was very important to us getting the FA Cup, staying in Europe, and he basically carried us last season. And he had a poor game to his, you know, for his standards. You know, he's been off the pace this entire season, and the criticism is starting to build, you know, but I think this kind of goes to almost like a bigger question of, is it more important to get Aubameyang scoring, or should we focus more on the system? You know, the system to me does not fit him. And maybe that's just because Lacazette does so well with buildup. But is there a chance that we could just make it kind of work? Does a new striker have to come in? Because for me, it's just like, don't we just have to make Aubameyang work? We gave him the big contract, you know, but he doesn't really fit the system.
Well, he does, because he scored goals and he won us the FA Cup last season.
But that was a different system.
No, it's the same system. The system hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed?
The players have changed, not the system.
But we're playing 3 at the back.
No. The players in the system are the same players. My point of the matter is this. When Aubameyang is scoring goals regularly, it doesn't matter the system because he's hot, he's scoring goals. When he's not scoring goals, it don't matter what system you play. So let's not even look at system. He doesn't fit this, he doesn't fit that. A goal scorer is a goal scorer. He's proven, not as a number 9, he's proven as a left forward that he can score goals, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The great thing about what should be happening is if we're going to have any chance of winning that Europa League, we need to get Aubameyang scoring. He's our best striker. He's our best gun. If you don't put bullets in your best gun and then you complain when you lose, you got a problem. We need to get Aubameyang going. And whether that means he gets dropped a couple of games and so he reevaluates himself or whatever happens, we need to get him going. And Lone Star Londoner says scores no matter the system. And we've seen him score a hat-trick against Leeds. We've seen him miss a hat-trick of chances against Benfica. Then we see him score 2 against Benfica the following week. And then we've seen him miss chances against Olympiacos. You know, I can't put my finger on why. And against Olympiacos at home, he could have walked away with a match ball. But for whatever reason, it's just not happening for him at times.
Let me ask you this, though. So I get what you're saying about, he scores no matter the system. That makes sense because even though he's having like a bad season, he's still at decent form right now. So I totally understand that. But should Arteta be picking this team based on the players that have done well in the past or based on current form? Because for me, it's kind of like, okay, well, if you choose based on the past, you're probably going to choose Willian and Aubameyang because they're proven, experienced players. They've done it before, been there, done that. But if we're choosing based on form, shouldn't it be Lacazette and Pepe? Pepe's been kind of just shoved to the side. Does it matter? Because I'm hearing people say that you should pick on form. Or should Arteta just trust that these players are going to play themselves back into form while we lose games and
but your problem is this. You've already said Lacazette doesn't score enough goals. He's a good player, yes he is, but he doesn't score enough goals. Pepe doesn't score enough goals. So where's your goal output going to come from? You have to have threats on the pitch. And I know people, again, this is what you got to pick on form, Not when it comes to goal scoring, you don't. You've got to pick your best striker. Because I can guarantee you this. If you don't pick your best striker and you create a load of chances and you lose the game, you know what's coming. Why is our best striker on the bench? So you got to have him on the pitch. If he's not doing it on the pitch, fair enough, you could always change him. But you have to play your best striker.
So, Kev, do you go with a front 3 of just say Saka, Lacazette, and Aubameyang, or do you take out Lacazette, put Aubameyang up top, and then play an Emil Smith Rowe left wing? What would you do? Just say, for example, for Liverpool when we play them at the Emirates in a few weeks.
For Liverpool, I would go Saka, if fit, Lacazette, and Aubameyang, because you need threats against them, and you need speed.
Yeah,
I suppose also.
Yeah, I suppose also it comes to the opposition, doesn't it? When you look at the Leeds game at home, Leeds played pretty expansive football, quite open. Aubameyang played up front, and there's no criticism of Aubameyang playing up front then when he scores a hat-trick because there's spacing behind, we can find him. When the game becomes deeper, it's obviously harder to get him involved. But in the same respect, we've seen him play left wing with Kieran Tierney behind him, and then he comes off the touchline, he gets in the box, Kieran Tierney plays across and he scores. So I just think it's nothing but just inconsistent form, and I don't put it down to tactics, and I don't put it down to attitude either. I've seen this quite a lot, he's not running around enough, but I'm like, but that's never been his game. He's never been that guy to back into defenders, and that's probably why he never gets injured, because he doesn't go into challenges, doesn't put his head where it hurts, and he's calm under pressure, which means when he's in front of goal, he's cool as hell. So when a player misplaces a pass, he's not going to go to the player like, you got to do better, you got to do this, you got to do that, and he takes that calmness into his finishing in front of goal. So I think it's really easy to criticise his demeanour. Obviously, he was late for the Spurs game, which is unacceptable. But if you separate that ultimately he's just missing chances. And my biggest fear, I said this after the Olympiacos game, would be that if he's not getting into those positions, then I'd be worried. But he's still getting into those positions. His first touch is still good. It's just his finishing which is letting him down. So hopefully he can refine that form, because make no mistake, when it comes to the latter stages of the Europa League, he's going to be the guy that will get us the goals, just like he did against Benfica. He'll be that guy that we turn to. So we need him on good form. And to kind of, my tweet was pointing towards, like, let's not just disregard him and say now Lacazette is the chosen one. They're both good players. Let's try to find a way to both get them scoring. I still believe he can do it in a front three next to Lacazette and Saka. But it seems like for some games, Arteta might prefer Aubameyang through the middle, where there's a bit of spacing behind. And for some games, when it's a deeper game, he might prefer Lacazette. So hopefully they can just both turn it on at the same time.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not Arteta, because I wouldn't want to make these decisions. I'd probably make the wrong one, but I think ultimately we're talking about having options, and there's nothing wrong with having options. I think we have better options than a lot of other teams in terms of attacking, players. So it's something that they have to figure out. I think Aubameyang, Lacazette, Saka worked in theory yesterday. It was just not Aubameyang's day, but on another day, maybe not off of a European game, maybe when he's, on form, it looks different, it feels different. And I would like to see Lacazette and Aubameyang on form playing together with Odegaard in behind, because before, when we were playing with them too, we weren't really playing with a 10, so maybe that will make a difference. But, we'll see. Again, I'm not making the decisions, but yeah, before we get into the question section, let's talk about Martinelli. This is another, I have very strong feelings about this. So this will be my second rant for today. I lied. I had one. I have two, actually. So Martinelli thing to me is just a stick to beat Arteta with, to be honest. I don't really get it. He's from the fourth tier in Brazilian football. And so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he's not tactically ready yet to play an Arteta system. Last season, it was just him and Saka just running up and down the left-hand side with just trying to save us from oblivion. Now we play better football that requires more football IQ, structural or whatever, positional awareness, things like that. And now the left wing looks different. The left wing player is Willian, Emile Smith-Rowe, those types of players versus Aubameyang doesn't even play on the left wing as much as he used to. So I'm just thinking that he's coming off of the type of injury that takes almost 2 years to get right from. He plays in a way that's so aggressive, and that's the way we like. That's why we like the way he plays, because he plays with so much passion and he likes to run and all that kind of stuff, that he needs to be 100% to play that way. This guy hurts himself in warm-up because he's trying so hard. We need to make sure that we protect him. I have a hard time believing that Arteta is keeping Martinelli off the field because he has this thing against him and it's all, plotted against Martinelli. Don't like him. I think he knows that he has something special, and he wants to make sure that when he uses him correctly. And you've seen videos of them working with him behind the scenes to be the number 9 next season, whether that means starting or, the third choice if we get somebody in, or the second choice behind Aubameyang. We know that they're working with him. You don't work with a player that you don't like. You just let him sit there and rot, so I think that it's just fine, and I'm not worried about it. He's 19 years old. In an Arsenal side that is a real Arsenal side, we wouldn't be expecting 19-year-olds to be carrying us and playing every single game. So why are we worried about it so much? And, it's not really a question. You guys can just kind of piggyback off of this, but how do you feel about the Martinelli situation? Am I the only one that feels like it's overblown, or is there something else to it that I'm not seeing?
I think that because of his talent level, the fan base have latched onto him. The first time he comes in for a small amount of money. What was it, £6 million? And nobody knew much about him. He comes in and he does well. The fan base got to love him. He scores double figures. Then he gets injured, and now he's as soon as he's fit, the fans want to see him back. Yeah, get him in the team. Martinelli hasn't played 6 months of Premiership football before. He hasn't started for 6 months. So how all of a sudden he's the answer. You're right, Jessica. It's going to take time. He's got to learn how to play. He's a winger. He's not a number 9. He can play in the middle, but it's a lot harder in the middle, because in the middle, that's where you get buffeted and that's where your injuries come, because you got usually two big guardos called centre halves in there who head you, kick you, and put the body on you. And you have to be physically stronger, and you have to know what you're doing. I should know. I played there. And I don't think Martinelli is ready for that just yet. He needs to work at it. Yes, he does. And I think if he works at it, he could be a really good number 9. I really believe that. But it's not just going to happen overnight. It's going to take a bit of time. And he's only 19. He's a baby. Arteta's doing the work with him in order for him to fulfill his potential. That's the key. It's no point having these talented boys if you're not going to help them and let them fulfill their potential. But just by chucking him in and hoping it happens, no. Arsenal ain't that type of club anymore, not under Arteta.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a case of, I've read a few comparisons on Twitter, with regards to his age, and people saying, yeah, but we played Cesc when he was young, or we played Theo when he was young. But then you look at someone like Phil Foden and look how gradual that's been at City. That's been 2 or 3 years of being in and out of the team. And even now he doesn't start every game. And he's arguably, one of the best young English talents in the league. So I think Kevin's right. It's just about being patient with a young kid, not putting too much pressure on his shoulders. Take someone like Van Persie, for instance. I think we signed him when he was 19 or 20, and it took him a few years to really cement his place in the team, or even longer than that. So I don't think we're not winning games because Martinelli isn't playing. I don't think it's a case of that. Arteta's proved that he's very much a system coach, and it's about having the right profile of player in the right position. And unfortunately, it seems like unless it's Aubameyang on the left side of midfield, he wants a possession-based player. And when he started Martinelli against Man United, the ball would go into Martinelli's feet on the left wing, and he would instantly, look for a 1-2 or try and play it around the corner. And he wants someone that's going to get on it, progress a little bit more, pass it sideways, get it back and penetrate a little bit more. So I think we'll see Martinelli more and more as the season progresses. But the kid's 19 years old, so you just got to be patient with him, plus the injury, plus the fact that we're quite fragile at the moment. So why would you put in another young player to almost, expose any frailties that he has? So long term, like Kev says, I think he can be a great number 9. And I'm sure we'll see him more towards the end of the season, and he'll score some goals. But let's not pretend that we don't have Emil Smith-Rowe, Pepe, Aubameyang, Willian, Saka, who can all play wide positions. So
also, Harry, people talk about Cesc Fabregas coming in the team. Look at the team he played in. Look at that team. I played against we played when I was at Everton, played Arsenal the first game of the season, and we looked at the team sheet and there was no Patrick Vieira, in the team, and our midfielders were rubbing their hands, thinking brilliant. There was still the Henrys and all that, so Campbell, all them, but there was a lad called Fabregas down. Nobody knew him. We knew he was at the end of that game, but look at the players he was playing with. And this is the key. We've already got Saka, who's carried the club most of this season. Smith-Rowe's come in and been his Robin, been a great help to him. And Martinelli's done his bit against Chelsea, etc. He has done bits, but we've seen him pull up in the warm-up, etc. We just have to be a bit more careful with him, that's all.
Yeah, to say it's anything to do with like a personal agenda, from Arteta or mismanagement, I think is way off the mark. I think that's just a stick to beat Arteta down with. I just think it's a case of player personnel and taking your time. And like Kev just mentioned, when you bring on Cesc Fabregas at 16, 17 years old, but you're 3-4-0 up because Bergkamp, Henry, Perez, Lundberg have done the hard work, it's a bit easier. Whereas, we want to bring on Martinelli when we're chasing the game, when we're desperate, and the circumstances have changed quite a lot. So hopefully he gets more minutes this season. I'm sure he will.
Yeah, you guys know I'm not really worried about it. I think it's fine. I've gotten to the point now where I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, why would he shoot himself in the foot like that anyway? He knows Martinelli's a huge talent. He knows we have limited resources, so it's in his best interest to protect the resources that he has. And right now, that means Martinelli needs to learn how to play in the number 9 position. And I think he also knows how the fans are. If Martinelli has a couple bad games, fan base will turn on him. We're good for that. So, we don't want that, so, but you guys, it's time for Ask Kevin. We're going to give Kevin as many questions as we possibly can. Make sure that it's obvious that it's a question so that I don't miss it. And I'll try to get to as many as we possibly can. Make sure that you like the video. Yeah, I'm enjoying my time, and this has been awesome so far. So let's go ahead and get into them. Velvishwan, who is a Liverpool fan, he's he's insane in these comments, but he's awesome. Velvishwan asks, what's your score prediction for the Liverpool game? Curious.
Liverpool have done much better away from Anfield than at home, because at home they've struggled in the league. But we need the points. We're desperate for the points, and we need to get our house in order again. In the form league of our last 12 games, we're 6th, and we need to keep that going, because we may not make top 4, which is a long shot, but we've got to finish as high as we can, and it's a home game. So I think Arsenal can win this game. I'm going to say Arsenal win 2-1.
Harry, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I think 2-1. I said I'll take 4 points off West Ham and Liverpool. So as we didn't do the job yesterday, I need Liverpool to be a home winner. I think 2-1. I think it will be tough, but it feels like we really need to start getting some wins under our belt before a couple of tough games against Everton and Chelsea as well. So I think, it's definite 3 points for me.
I was actually thinking out of like Spurs and Liverpool and West Ham that if we got 4 points, I'd be okay. Like a win, a loss, and a draw. So I've already gotten like what I needed, out of that. I wasn't super like, thinking that we were going to do like, win all the games. But I think we talked about this, Harry, that there is some favorable, games towards the end of the season. That doesn't mean that we're just going to walk through. But, if we could get anything against Liverpool, for me, I'd probably be happy with that. I don't think they're as bad as everybody makes them out to seem. Like, it's fine margins in every single game, and they're just a little off. If they just get a little bit under their belt, they'll be probably a lot closer to where they want to be. So I'm actually going to say 1-1. I think we'll tie, to be honest. But yeah. Lone Star has been trying to get this in here the whole time. So the question, is this a question, Lone Star? I'm not sure. He asks, Arteta must address slow starts, horrendous errors, passing the ball out of the back, and conceding possession in the defensive third all lead to inconsistency. I just think Lone Star wants you to comment on it. Kevin, do you agree?
Well, the horrendous errors is the players passing out the ball out from the back. We've seen Arsenal do it and score unbelievable goals. So that's on the players as well. And conceding possession in our defensive third is the players again. So I'm sure Arteta has been pulling his ear out about that, because we've seen Arsenal do it. But just like we always say, we're Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes we can do it, and other times we make the most basic mistakes. But the slow starts, what I will say is it's not all the time we start slow. The Wolves game was the best start we've had in a long while, and we started like a house on fire. But again, we didn't take our chances. Against Burnley away, we started like a house on fire. We should have been 3-0 up. So Lone Star Londoner, the slow starts maybe ain't as convincing to me as you put.
Also on point 3, yesterday I think we had 4 goal kicks in the first 30 minutes, and Leno went long every single time, and the ball came straight back at us. So sometimes you need to play out from the back to get confidence on the ball to actually, play through the opposition. I don't think we're suited to always going long. I don't think that's in our game as much. So I think we have to persist with passing out the back. But when we improve the quality in midfield, then essentially we'll lose the ball less from playing out the back.
Campbell asks, if the only player we could afford this summer is Martin Odegaard, Do you take that or prefer 3 or 4 more affordable players in other positions?
No, we've got to go for the 3 or 4 more. We have to. We can't go through with the same squad. We just can't. And as Martin Odegaard's there now, it's when you got good players in certain positions, it shines a light on other positions that ain't so right. So we need to get them. We need to get 3 or 4 more positions sorted out. That's what I would say.
See, Walder asked, what's your favorite Arsenal kit? I had the home kit from the Bruised Banana season with your name on it.
Favorite Arsenal kits, always the home kit has always been a favorite. I've always liked the 1970 FA Cup winning shirt, the old one with the collars and stuff like that. I love that one. But the Bruised Banana is definitely up there because it kind of brought us into the 21st century in the way we looked. No other team looked like us when we went away. And I know there was a lot of fans who weren't sure. There was a lot of players, actually, who weren't sure about the kit. But as we started playing in it, it became more and more popular. And it's cult now, isn't it? It's cult.
He also asked, who's your favorite strike partner from whatever team?
It's got to be Righty. Righty was my favorite. He's a bundle of fun, full of life, and a great gooner as well. So he's definitely Righty.
I would agree, even though I'm biased, but I would agree. Sean asks, who's the best player from the Premier League for the last decade? I have an idea of who I would say, but I want to see if you think the same.
Last decade, wow. Listen, we've had some unbelievable players. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you look at Yaya Toure, you look at David Silva at Manchester City, and what they done. That team was brilliant. You could even chuck a Vincent Kompany in there as well, who was superb.
I was going to say Aguero, to be honest.
Yeah, but I'm getting to the top end of the pitch, which is where it actually matters. And he's maybe not the same player now because he's suffered with injuries. But Sergio Aguero has been the difference maker. He has, for all of Yaya Toure's brilliance and David Silva's quality on the ball and all these other players. I think Sergio Aguero has been incredible, an incredible signing, and the amount of goals. He's a player who is going to score the amount of goals that you need, and he's done it season after season after season. And you have to take your hat off. I think he's been probably the most influential player in the Premier League for the last 10.
Would you like to see him at Barcelona?
I think he can play at Barcelona. I'd love to see him at Barcelona. But I'm a Real Madrid man. So as long as we get Mbappe at Real Madrid, he could go Barcelona.
Man. I think that would be a really interesting move for him. This is a good question. Do you see a future for Pepe? A couple months ago, I think a lot of people would say no, but maybe things 100%. Have changed.
Yeah, 100%. Again, when you see Pepe now, Pepe seems to have a bit more structure to his game. I think that's because of the work he's putting in on the training ground. And I know they're doing quite a few one-on-one sessions. So Pepe's putting in the work, and Pepe has improved. And I think he's only going to get better.
I agree. I think that, with Pepe, it's just a matter of, him getting the right type of management. I think every player needs different management. He might need a little bit of hand around the shoulder, special time after practice alone, just with Arteta talking about what he expects from him. And his whole demeanor is so different than it was, just even when we played against Leeds, when he got the red card, everything is completely different. And I think what's important for Arsenal fans to remember is that we've wanted this. We've wanted a team with multiple players that could make a difference, and some off of the bench. And there's nothing wrong with Pepe not starting every single game, maybe playing under Saka, or they switch off. But I think the best thing is that we have multiple options, good quality options at the top end of the pitch, you know, so I'm not worried about it. And as long as he's smiling and he's coming out there and he's playing the way that he's playing, I'm ecstatic. You know, if he comes out there and he's moping, then maybe we have a problem, but he looks happy. He looks happier, even coming off the bench. So I can only take that as a good sign. And personally, I'd want to see him stay. I do like the player that he is, you know, so I'm going to take, you know, host privileges here. And I'm going to ask you if, where do you think we're going to finish? And do you think we can win the Europa League?
I'll answer the last question first. Yes, we can. We can win the Europa League. We know it's a topsy-turvy and we're all on a roller coaster supporting this club. But we do love it. We love Arsenal. And we do have the team to win. One thing we do know, Arsenal could beat anybody over 2 legs, and Arsenal could win any game on a one-off. Our problem is the consistency. Now, we seem to have some consistency in the Europa League. Obviously, Olympiacos was a bad day at the office. But the key was getting into the hat. We're in the hat now, and we've got to fancy our chances, aren't we? We fancy our chances in the next round. And then, you know, you could see it, can't you? Us getting through, no disrespect to our opposition, and playing Villarreal and Unai Emery. You could just see it happening, can't you? You know, this is going to be typical of our luck. And Mikel Arteta taking on Unai Emery. That would be interesting. But we can win it. And where do I think we finish? I think we could finish. We could get 6. But just on the same hand, we could finish 10th. So it's anywhere between 10th and 6th. I'd like to see us finish 6th. But we could finish anywhere. Who knows where? After yesterday, throw the balls up in the air.
Do you think the pressure increases on Arteta if he does finish 10th as opposed to 8th or 7th? I know you won't get European League football with that, but do you think the pressure
No, I think the pressure's already on. And he's living with the pressure. And I think that the key to it, listen, the key to it is always not listening to what the fans say and having your own mind. Because if you listen to what the fans say, 50% will say go left and 50% will go right. You can't win. So you have to do it your own way. And he's doing it his own way. He's had to clean up 16 years of us standing still. And I mean that in the best possible way. And there's no disrespect to Arsene Wenger, Unai Emery, and a little bit of Freddie. But we've had 16 years of the club standing still, not wanting to be the best. That's our problem. And to switch it around, it's not going to happen overnight. For a decade, we've known we've needed a centre-half and a centre midfielder. Never got addressed for a decade. Now, all of a sudden, a centre-half comes in and a centre midfielder comes in. Mikel Arteta, you know what? Just for doing that alone, go to the summer and improve us.
Awesome. Well, you guys, I think we're going to end it there. Kevin, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I really appreciate it. You've been an awesome guest. And can you let everybody know what you're going to be up to during the international break? Anything special, or just look for you on the Highbury squad? What's going on?
Yeah, the Highbury squad. I'm going to be on the Highbury squad at 8 o'clock tonight in 36 minutes. And because of lockdown, we try and do a show every day if we can, just to keep people looking forward to something. So, and I like to jump onto other Arsenal pods as well, because I think it's important that I support the Arsenal fan base and lovely podcasts like this one, Jessica. So you will find me on Twitter, #1 at #1 Kevin Campbell, and yeah, you'll see me around. I'm never too far.
Awesome. And DJ Harry, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, find me on Twitter at it's DJ Harry. But I'm looking forward to a couple of weeks off in terms of talking Arsenal. I'm looking forward to this international break. I feel like I need a mental rest from Arsenal. So yeah, we can talk everything that isn't Arsenal just for a few days.
Awesome. And you guys know you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessinho. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a call-in show, so look out for that. Just follow me on Twitter, and you'll see all the information for that. I'll be letting you guys actually come on video with me, and we can talk about Arsenal. And then on Wednesday, same old Arsenal, Lee Judges, Craig, and Dan Potts will all be on the show with me then. You guys, it's been an awesome show, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.